If you are trying to do what it takes to sound more natural when you speak in American English pronunciation, then this is the show for you. Welcome to the Schwa Mill, where we take a look at pronunciation and audio files and videos that you send here. So that way we can give you an idea of what is sounding natural, what is not sounding natural, and what can we do to bridge that gap. And to guide you in this process, there is me. Hello, guys. My name is Geoff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the 4 keys to a natural sound in American English, including placement, pitch, breath. Trying to weaken those consonant sounds and strengthen your vowel sounds. It is good to be back with you all. We were doing some traveling recently, but we just got back. So now we can return to giving you guys the help that you are asking for. So I have 2 files today that we're going to be taking a look at, and then a couple of questions that I'd also like to answer for you. The very first file we're going to be taking a look at has to deal with breath. What do we need to do in American English to achieve that kind of nice, slow, resonant, warm sound? For instance, you can hear it in my voice right now. What do we need to do to achieve that? We need to engage our diaphragm, and we have one student that's working through that. And I have some notes about their exercise that I think will also be beneficial for you if you're trying to achieve that sort of sound as well. So let's take a look at the file and we'll give some suggestions. Okay, so first of all, thank you as always for sending that. There are a couple of things that I do want to address here. So it seems like before we even get to that, let's just talk about what's happening here. So this is, if you've seen our breath videos, you know one of the exercises that you can do is you can gauge your breath and diaphragm use by using your hands as a monitor on your body. So for instance, if I go profile and adjust my camera a bit, okay, and you can see my hand here. So if I breathe in, you can see my hand just went out, and then if I breathe out, might be a little bit hard to see, but my hand kind of contracted. So basically, as you breathe in, your stomach expands, and as you breathe out, it contracts. And it kind of does that over and over again. I'll do it one more time. So breathing in and breathing out. Okay. And so your body's just naturally going to do that. What you don't want to happen, though, is you're putting your hand there on your stomach as a you're not supposed, don't apply any force with your hand. Your hand is just going where your stomach goes. So as your stomach goes in, your hand's just going to go in. As your stomach goes out, your hand's going to go out. So your hand is pressing against your stomach, but you don't want to just like move your hand. Okay. And I'm a little bit nervous watching this video that maybe the hand is kind of acting on its own instead of just following the body. And again, you'll be the best guy. So this is, I believe, Scotch's video. This is you. Just make sure that your hand is not forcing any movement and is purely tracing with the body. Okay, and maybe it is. But that was one impression that I had. As you do that. Another similar breath exercise that you can do that we do a lot here on the channel is you can take your fists and press them against your ribs. Okay, so towards the center of your ribs, right below your chest. Okay, and if you breathe in, you see how everything kind of expanded. And then if you breathe out, you get that slow kind of contraction in. Okay, so this is just 2 ways to monitor if you're using your diaphragm as you talk. An additional little thing about this video as well. Let's listen to, especially to the part where you can hear the vowel, like doing the ah sound. Listen to this in the second half of this clip. Okay, so what's happening here is I'm kind of hearing just like, compare that to, Can you hear the difference in the transition? I'll do it again. The first time, and, Okay, we want the second one. We want that smooth transition where the vowel gradually disappears and all we are left with is breath. That is the goal.
Ah.
To me, it seems a little bit that transition from ah to breath is a little bit sharp. I would try to work on smoothing out that transition. We don't want to say like no or like ah or e, versus like no ah e. So again, trying to smooth out that transition. It's like fading out a song on the radio, and this is going to help us a lot as we work on our control with firmness and softness. And if you haven't heard those concepts before, this is like a firm voice. Right now, I'm talking very firm. This is a soft voice. Right now, I'm talking very soft. It's not just about yelling or whispering. It's also kind of about that vocal quality. Okay. So those are just some little things that came up when I was looking at your audio or video. Overall, keep practicing that. I like it. These are exercises I think are going to be really helpful for sentences. As you're practicing that too, you can transition from doing individual sounds to entire like phrases. You could be like, "Hi, how are you today?" Or, "My name is Jeff. I live in the U.S." Like things like that. You can start incorporating some phrases to practice that transition from firm to soft, and that may help as well. Okay, hello to Gotcha. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks also for the video. All right, let's take a look at our next talk. Actually, right before we do that, I do just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for today's show, which is me. So we have a group coaching program called Magnet Lab. So this is for people if you are trying to feel more confident and more natural when you're speaking with your friends, when you're speaking with strangers, when you're talking to family at home, when you're leading a meeting at work, when you're presenting in front of large groups of people or performing. If you want to feel more confident and natural and comfortable when you're in all of those settings, I've created a new small group coaching program called Magnet Lab. In Magnet Lab, what we do is students are sending in video and audio files of themselves throughout the week. And in every class, we look at 2 files. It's kind of like what we do today, but a little bit more in depth. So instead of spending, like 3 or 4 minutes on your files, we're spending about 15 minutes on your files, just going over, hey, this is what you're doing pronunciation wise. This is what you're doing with your body language. This is the impression I have when you speak. How can we give the impression that we want? And instead of just meeting on Mondays and Tuesdays and Fridays like we do here, this is every single day, Monday through Friday. So if you are interested in any of the things I just talked about, you can find more information at fluentamerican.com/magnetlab. It would be great to work with you on a more consistent, regular, and focused basis. Let's take a listen to our second audio file here.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors.
Okay, so earlier we spoke about some diaphragm use and some resonance and things like that. And one of the things I can say with this file is you can kind of hear that kind of like low, bassy kind of voice, which is great. That's something that we are looking for in American English pronunciation. At the same time, there's also some sounds that are coming through that sound a little bit less than what you would expect to hear in North America, and I think it has to do with placement, and it seems to be concentrated around a few specific sounds. Let's take a listen to this one more time.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors.
Okay, so a couple of words I want to kind of highlight where I felt the placement went up. Okay. It's going up on, for instance, like on diphthongs. Your diphthongs, again, diphthongs are sounds like I, O, A, things like that. And the way a lot of other languages treat diphthongs is they create two separate sounds. So like the I sound like I, like the A sound like A. One of the things I like to tell students that for American English, I think you're going to achieve a much more natural sound is if instead of trying to produce both sides of this, instead what we want to try to do is we just want to pronounce, basically we want to condense everything into a single sound. Okay. So instead of doing like I, we want just like I. Instead of like oh, it's just oh. Okay, so it's not necessarily going to require the amount of mouth movement that your own first language may require when you're doing this in American English pronunciation. And I think that that's something that's kind of happening here. I'm hearing some placement shift. Okay, so like light. Can you say like I lie light I lie light I lie light versus light versus light. So notice for mine, I'm keeping the placement lower. In the original audio, I'm keeping it a little higher. Let's see if we can find an example of that word sunlight again, or also in the word strikes.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air.
It's like sunlight strikes versus sunlight strikes. So we want to try to get more of the resonance, and as you lower the placement, it's going to be easier to get the resonance, and vice versa as well. So watching out for those diphthongs there. So instead of sunlight strikes, more sunlight strikes.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in.
Okay. Another sound where we're seeing that happen on is that O sound. So for instance, on the word rainbow, it's like oh, bow, rainbow. Let's see if we can find that word.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow.
Bow, a rainbow versus a rainbow. Again, diphthong, trying to keep the placement down. We can minimize that mouth movement as well. One final area where we're seeing this is the word colors.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors.
And this will be a highlight of my final point as well. Sometimes we can have great vowel sounds, but the consonants around them can be impacting things. And there's some consonant sounds that we want to be mindful of. So for instance, letters like L, letters like R, letters like B and P, these are all consonant sounds that can shift placement high. And we want to try to keep the placement down. So when we're saying colors, I think one of the things that's happening is that letter L is becoming a little bit dominant, although it could be the R sound at the end as well. I would really recommend for L's treating them as dark L's. So having the tip of the tongue down against the bottom of the mouth, it's like L, it's like colors, so colors, which also is going to take a lot more mouth movement if you keep your tongue high against the top of your mouth. Instead, I would try to keep my tongue against the bottom of my mouth. Colors. Okay. This also could explain why on words like sunlight and also rainbow, why the placement's going high. It could be that the consonants are causing the placement to go high, not necessarily the vowels or the diphthongs. It could be the consonant sounds. So we just always have to be careful. Every time you're adding consonant sounds, make sure it's not causing your placement to go high as well. Okay, so those would be just some little things to watch out for there. All right, before we head out today, I did want to also answer a couple of questions that came in. In case you're wondering where we got these audio files from and these questions from, we have a Telegram group. We have a couple different Telegram groups. We do have a free Telegram group though that's dedicated just to the Schwa Mill. You can find it in the video description. And if you would like to send in your own video or audio files for these streams, that would be the place to do it. A couple of questions. I want to take a look at Ganshim asking. Ganshim, we did take a look at your video earlier. I also don't have it prepped for today's stream. Potentially, we could take a look at it tomorrow. Okay. My apologies for that. I just don't have it prepared. Let's take a look at Arusha's question here. Arusha, even though I feel like I usually get the phrase right when you shadow it, it's way harder and slower to actually use them in spontaneous speech. Is that a common thing to experience? So basically, studying pronunciation, you feel like you can do things great, and then you try to apply it to real life, and it's more of a struggle. And that is entirely natural. You know, one of the things is that when you practice, you're very focused and intentional about it. And then when you're out in the real world, there's so many random, unprepared for situations. It can be difficult to apply the things that you're taking from what you've learned to that new setting. So the way to combat this, or at least what I did in my own kind of language learning background, is make little challenges, make little games for yourself. Be like, okay, before I go to bed today, I need to use this one phrase that I've been studying. Or before I go to bed today, I need to use this intonation pattern that I've been practicing 3 times. Or before I go to bed today, I need to use this word that I've been learning at least 10 times in different conversations. Just making little challenges like that can help make your speech a little bit more intentional. So that way you are actively trying to take the things you've learned and apply it. Because if you wait for it to just happen naturally, you're going to be waiting a very long time. You have to be active about it. You already have a natural way of talking that you're used to that doesn't do these things. So the only way to change it is to actively try to change it. Okay. Thank you for sending that question. We appreciate it. Here's our next one from Pasora. Let's see. I had a bit of trouble pronouncing the L after the R when it's being linked from a word to another. A few of my difficult example words would be like "you're lucky" and "her laptop." Okay. Common situations with L's and R's. They are tricky words. Generally, the words that have them, even words like world and girl, tend to be very difficult. I was actually just working with a friend on the word girl. No, on the word world for about 20 minutes. It's hard. One suggestion I would have is lower tongue positions. Okay, so you may have been taught to like curl your tongue up for R sounds or to touch the top of your mouth for the L sounds and things. Instead, having your tongue position lower can be really helpful. So instead of doing like a that's with my tongue high, I would have it down. It's like that's with the lower position. Same thing with the L. So instead of like doing more of a dark L, like that's again with my tongue down against my bottom front tooth or the bottom of my mouth. I think that can be really helpful. So those would be some suggestions. So like let's look at what some of your phrases were. So you have like the phrase like "you're lucky." So let's just work on the "you're" part. It's like you're, you're. And then we had the word lucky, so with the dark L. The other thing I would say too is that anytime you have a phrase that's a little challenging, start off with a focus just on the primary vowels. So in your vowel is going to be an sound. No way around that. But for the word lucky, it's going to be a schwa sound. It's an followed by an e. So basically your vowels here are like I, right? And let's try to say that a little faster and make it more fluid. It's like I, you're lucky. I, you're lucky. I, you're lucky. I, you're lucky. Okay, and what I'm doing, I'm just holding my tongue down against the bottom of my mouth the entire time. You're lucky. You're lucky. You're lucky. Okay, so again, that lower tongue position for the R's and the L's for both of those sounds. And then similarly with the phrase "her laptop." So your vowel sounds here are an sound again, an sound, and an sound. It's like ah, ah. And let's try to link that together. Her laptop. Her laptop. Her laptop. Her laptop. So again, and that's again with the tip of my tongue down against bottom of my mouth the entire time. Okay. There's obviously other things that we need to focus on as well. So for instance, stressed syllables versus unstressed syllables. Like for instance, her laptop, you're just stressing lap. So the other syllables are going to be weaker, lower in pitch, faster, and things like that. So that can also have an impact on sound as well if you don't have the right rhythm. But just to get started, I would practice by having that lower tongue position. Just get used to that. Okay. And I hope that is helpful. Thank you for asking that as well. We have a final question from Elisa, who asks, is the double T in gotten pronounced like a fast D sound? Like it's gotten hot, they've already gotten ready, things like that. I think in general, when you have T's that come before an N or around N sounds, in general, the more common T will be what's called a held T or a stop T. Okay. So instead of saying gotten, you'll hear more gotten, which is not exactly the same thing as like a glottal stop. A glottal stop is going to be more like a gotten. You can hear that kind of harsher stop. Okay, gotten, where like everything, the breath completely stops moving for a brief moment. Instead of using that kind of like glottal stop or glottal stop, I would really recommend more of a held sound. You hear that the breath keeps flowing. It's like gotten. Okay. Can you use a fasty like gotten, they've gotten? I mean, anything is possible. You may hear some people talking like that. But the more frequent situation we have T's before N's, you're going to hear instead a held T or a stop T. That's going to be a more frequent one. You see there's some words like cotton, words like eaten, words like forgotten, words like written, and things like that. Those would be my suggestions there. All right, guys. Once more, if you found this helpful and you would like feedback like this for yourself in a small group coaching setting, I encourage you to check out Magnet Lab. It would be great to work with you and to help you just feel more confident the next time you have to talk with anyone, whether it's a stranger, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, whether it's your boss. All those situations you're going to feel much more comfortable in a very short amount of time. I think in even just a single month, you will hear a noticeable difference in your speech and feel noticeably different as well. With that, I will be back on Friday with another edition of the Schwa Mill. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. There's a lot of pronunciation resources out there. I'm very much aware of that, so the fact that you are here is appreciated. I will see you guys later. Hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon. Take care.